afternoon, Senators. For the record, my name is Bree Mackey, and I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Broadband Development. Thank you for having me here, and today's presentation is around the Governor's broadband recommendations. With that, as you know, the Governor is recommending $138 million for FY 2024, $138 million for FY 2025 from the General Fund for Border-to-Border Grant Program. We stand ready at the Office of Broadband Development to support these numbers, and we also thank the Governor for his trust in our office. So a little bit of background of still unmet needs. About 88% of the state is at the 2026 goals, leaving 12% still unserved or underserved. Of that amount, 62% of the rural homes and businesses have the correct access to speed that we're looking for in these goals. We all know, and especially since the pandemic, broadband access is critical to telehealth, business, work needs, education, economic growth, and many other things. And just also wanted to share that last week we did hold a Connecting One Minnesota event, and we had 242 people in-person registers and another 193 online registrants. This number, just to share, shows the desire and the continued need and time investment of all of the partners, providers, and advocates that made that meeting a priority in your day. And I just want to share a little story about a business owner in Berlin, Minnesota. Greg Hine and his wife depend on the internet for their livelihoods. Greg is a Pioneer seed dealer, and his wife is an accountant. Both work from their home in rural Delavan, which is about 125 miles southwest of the Twin Cities. Through a grant from DEED's Office of Broadband Development, the local provider, Bevcom, was able to install high-speed fiber optic cable to their home, which is now 60 times faster than their old speed connections. Now he is able to connect online with his seed treatment system and also get IT support in addition to all of their everyday uses. As I'm quoting from Greg, it has been astronomical. It was so slow to get things done. I can't imagine going back. To have reliable phone, internet, and TV is great. It's one of the best things ever. I think this story really demonstrates how simple yet effective and important broadband truly is in the lives of all Minnesotans. And with that, that's all I have for a presentation, but happy to take any questions you may have.
Wow, that was impressively efficient. Almost drive-through. Members, questions or comments for Ms. Mackey? Senator Seaberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to offer my support for the border-to-border broadband. I was just downstairs speaking with the township folks, which they have amazing bars. Everybody go get some. But in all seriousness, the issue of access to broadband across the state is real. I live in Afton. We're on the cusp of the side, just on the east side of the cities, but we don't have border-to-border broadband even within my town. And speaking with some of the township folks and constituents from my district, from some of the townships in my district, it's an urgent need that needs to be filled. So thanks for coming and talking to us about it today.
Ms. Mackey?
Yes, thank you, Senators. And I just also want to put a plug in for the township, Steve Fensky and their team there. Just asked for 3,000 sheets on our line extension program, so I know that they're working really hard to get their members served.
Senator Cooper.
So, and actually, I just met with my township Mr. Chair as well, and similar, things. And we're down to those more difficult ones, those last kind of end of the line ones. So, when we're making that determination as to where are we going to go next, and which ones are we going to? How does that system work, and who's exactly in charge of putting that together?
Ms. Mackey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator, for the question. So the Office of Broadband has been doing these for many years, as you know, these grant applications. One thing I do want to highlight, as you did mention, it is getting a little bit more difficult to serve those harder areas, and I'm really excited to see the low density pilot program applications in this round, and that will give us a good idea of that continued need where the 50% match is just not enough to get to our most remote areas. So when we, there's a separate ranking for that amount, but there's only $30 million in there, so potentially that could be 3 projects in the state. So I think just recognizing that we may need that flexibility at the Office of Broadband to continue to do deployment. At this time, we're still getting the 50% applications, and they're coming in right now. The pre-application, the application period opens in early March. So at this point, I think it takes a combination of looking at the programs and what is best for those areas. As far as the low density pilot program, the applicants do have to choose that one. You can't just then default to the other one. So it is a matter of choice for the providers in the application process.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. To follow up on Senator Seeberger and Senator Kupek, I just want to say that not only are our township folks excellent for showing up here to be committed, but mine are better because they're sitting in the back row right now. Friends from Minden Township are here right now. But I did want to ask one question that grew from my conversation that I had with my friends back there, and that's the question of outreach. We know that the mapping situation is a little bit difficult, knowing exactly who has and who doesn't have adequate access. How do we communicate with people in townships, in spaces that are very rural, to hear from them whether or not they have access? And is there a budgetary dimension of that in the governor's request?
Well, thank you, Chair, for the question and the comments. Your townships will soon find out that the Office of Broadband is going to be going to all their regional meetings and doing outreach. We're working with Mr. Fensky to line that up, and between our small but mighty staff, we are making it a goal to go and do outreach individually to each of those township areas. Again, we do have the line extension paperwork as well that will be handed off to everyone within the township meetings. One thing that was really effective during the FCC mapping challenge period was a letter to the editor that we worked on through the Office of Broadband partnership with Deed, and from me to go to all the local papers and medias throughout the state. We were sort of consumed with the big meeting last week, the Connecting Youth Minnesota meeting, but we do encourage and will continue to encourage all to be involved in that planning process for the infrastructure, and our digital equity work moving forward. So again, our small and mighty team is really doing the best we can. We do get 3% is what we take for admin costs through, in general, the general fund. And so we do have that funding that we use for operational. We are also looking to hiring a project sort of coordinator and outreach person specific, so hoping those also complement the work that we're already doing. Always looking for ways that we can improve communication, so certainly welcome and open to any other ideas.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Senator Kunish.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I apologize for not being here for your full report, but I have the information here. A few months ago, I was invited to speak at a forum for women in government. It's a national organization for women legislators, and I was asked to particularly speak about, let me see here, I'm looking at my notes, my perspective on affordable broadband service as an equity issue. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to kind of go over some of my notes, and then I'll have a question at the end. And so my notes that I shared states that over the last 3 years, we've seen our racial disparities with broadband service. Almost twice as many Black and Hispanic Americans and American Indian and Alaska Natives have no internet subscription compared to our white households. And of course, we all know that broadband access is not equal. A disproportionate number of Black and Latino households rely on their smartphones, which is a small screen, for their broadband connectivity. I found a statistic: 18% of the tribal reservation residents have no internet access, while 33% do rely on their smartphones for internet service, so broadband is really critical for Indian country. We know that COVID-19 ravaged our communities of color, and those elders with chronic health conditions of all races and ethnicities were particularly at risk from the coronavirus and often needed to self-isolate. So telemedicine became almost impossible, and patients had to have access to broadband to take advantage of the remote health care services in order to stay home and be safe. And so that was an issue. Economically, the risk of job loss during the pandemic also fell more heavily on our workers of color. So access to job applications, work opportunities, services, and benefits for unemployed members required broadband, and many did not have that access. It's an educational issue, and we all, especially if you have children or if you were a teacher, recognize what that was, how devastating that all was. But during the surges of the virus infection, bedrooms became the classroom for students of all ages, and those students without broadband couldn't access classroom instructions, or they were all siphoning off their parents' phone to access that as a hotspot. But there is something good in my little tirade here. In Minnesota, our tribal communities have proven to be leaders in helping rural and underserved families gain access to high-speed internet. In 2018, the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa formed their own broadband company, Aneen, which is currently providing fiber optic internet service to more than 1,800 homes throughout and beyond their reservation. And the Shakopee, Midwauken, and Sioux community also launched their own indigenous broadband network to help serve members of their tribe. So with all that being said, I have two questions. Does the governor have any plans to help me promote this kind of independent broadband service within the tribes? And then specifically how you might be addressing the communities of color that have really limited access to broadband and affordable broadband at that.
Ms. Mackey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator, for your very thoughtful comments and recognizing all of those things are important for us to remember. As far as tribal programs, maybe go in that order, we certainly have, we're involved in our outreach and working with our tribes. Part of our digital equity planning and need planning has us working with all of our tribal entities, as well as incorporating their plans within our plan. So when it comes to long-term infrastructure and digital equity, we're going right to the source. And we have tribal liaisons within our office at Dean that is incredible to help bridge any of those gaps that we're missing and keeping us on a good track there. As far as the digital equity work in and of itself is, Minnesota's obviously been a leader in broadband, and we hear about it everywhere I go in other states. Maybe the digital equity piece did slide a little bit, though having reliable broadband as infrastructure is an equity thing, and we see that in greater Minnesota and some of the areas that you also talked about. Minnesota has an incredible opportunity right now to really be thoughtful in our planning in this digital equity work. We did hire a digital equity lead, and also we're working to hire another person to help support that work. So we also know within the state, we have many agencies that we can work with when it comes to skills, education, equipment, all of the things that make it happen. It's nice to sort of have the infrastructure. If you don't know how to use it, it doesn't do any good. And I think I heard a story when you brought up the cell phone use. Somebody that was incarcerated and given a cell phone doesn't even know what it does, and he shared the story with us, and so we're missing something there, and we get that. And so just know, hopefully under my leadership and this opportunity, we have to really be thoughtful and get out across the state to listen to the needs, the barriers, the gaps, and also what's working really great, and how can we incorporate it into the programs that we offer is really an important piece of this work that I'm doing and excited to do moving forward.
Senator Knish, moving forward. Members, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Mack and Mr. Buckland, for your presentation.